Wow. Hello, guys. Happy to see you again in this new session of Language is a Virus. And today I'm in charge of presenting the conversation, but I won't talk about my poetry projects, but a research project in which I've been participating with some colleagues. I'm part of a group called La Oficina de la Nada, that is the Office of Nothingness. It started as a research group, like an academic group, with Marcela Labraña. She studies literature and visual arts. And Megumi Andrade, she also studies the relationship between literature, visual arts, and photography. And in my case, I usually more related to literature and music, and also to digital technologies. So the three of us come from literature, but are very interested in the relationships between literature and other arts. That's like our main focus. And the other thing that we like to study is the relationships between different mystical traditions and contemporary literature, contemporary art. So we started a project called Negative Poetics on 2015, a research project, a project about nothing. We studied the representations of nothingness in literature and visual arts, especially conceptual art, artist books, all that. And we were supposed to do what you usually do in a research project, to write papers and publish them in academic journals, to organize conferences, to teach some classes, guide some dissertations, etc. But we also organized some activities, some dialogues with artists, with writers, and all that. And one day we were having a meeting with the Goethe Institute. I think it's similar to other Goethe institutes in other countries. And they told us that we could organize something about artist book. We were very interested, especially there's this very important visual poet and artist from Chile, Guillermo Deisler. He lived in Chile until 1973, and then he was exiled and went to Bulgaria, and then to Germany, to the East Germany, and he lived there until 1995 when he died. So that was we were working around his work, his archive. He's like the pioneer of visual poetry in Chile. And when the guys from the Goethe Institute told us to do something, well, we invited three artist writers in Chile just to talk about artist book, to show some examples, etc. And it was very funny because we were organizing this activity, and there was like 100 people that attended, which is very much considering like the usual quantity of people that go to these places. And we started seeing that most of the people didn't come from literature. Very few of our students came, in fact, but there were a lot of people that study graphic design, visual arts, lots of people that were involved in independent publishing houses, also people that made fanzines or other kind of publications. So there was like, we didn't know about it, but there was like a lot of people interested in artist book, more like a point of coincidence of people that were studying different things. In our case, we were interested in artist books because we were studying about nothingness, and there are a lot of artist books that don't have any text or are full with white pages or whatever. But our project wasn't specifically about artist book, but it became to have more and more importance in what we were doing. So for the next year, we organized a first festival, artist book festival, And then we made another, and for the second year, we started to work along with the Universidad Andrés Bello. It's another university, and with the people from the Faculty of Art. They have art and graphic design, I think. So it was a very good combination because these guys had a gallery where we could make an exhibition and help us a lot. So the festivals that we have been doing all this time have been, now is the fourth that starts tomorrow. And the festivals have been organized by La Oficina de la Nada, this group, and Universidad Andrés Bello. And for this year, we were preparing like a normal festival that meant to have an exhibition of concrete books. And also we were planning to invite some artists from Brazil, especially this year. We were also planning some workshops, some talks, like the usual stuff. But around March, it started to seem more and more difficult. And in the middle of the year, it became clear that we weren't able to do a festival like the usual. So we decided to make a virtual version. I don't like very much talking about virtual or real or unreal or concrete. Well, you know, but you know what I meant. So we decided to make this year's festival in a website. That meant the exhibition in a website and also the activities. So we took this like an opportunity to make our website. We didn't have a website of La Oficina de la Nada, so we made this, and we prepared the archive of the first three festivals. We had some photos, some videos, some information about them, and also around other activities we have organized. And we prepared this year's edition. So the festival is starting tomorrow at 6, just at the same hour, 9 or 10 for you. And what I will do now is like a kind of a rehearsal of a guided visit, something like that. It's very strange to talk about a guided visit of a website, but I mean, just like 10 minutes ago, the designer sent me the links to see the exhibition. There are still a few details that we have to look at, but you can see or at least get an idea about this. But there's also another interest for me of showing you this this project, because this year's exhibition, as you will see, is just a list of links. There's a very small text and just a list of things that you can visit and see very different projects. And we always think of this first exhibition like an open exhibition. So we want to, if we receive suggestions of other works or projects that we could include in this exhibition, it can be growing along the time. It's not closed as a typical exhibition. So I'll start sharing the screen, and also at the end I will show a work I'm very happy. It's a project. It's a sound poetry improvisation we made. We already recorded that will be played at the end of the festival, and I wanted to show it to you, to take a look, because it has a lot to do with sound poetry and all our interest around sound. So these are the exhibitions. This was the first exhibition. its name was Otros Libros, Other Books, in reference to other books. And so the name of the gallery and bookshop created by Ulises Carrion. He's probably, lots of you know him. He's like one of the pioneers of artist book, especially in Latin America, but also in Europe. And that year we took Guillermo Deisler, this Chilean poet that lived in Germany, like the axis of the exhibition, considering that we were working with the Goethe Institute. So we took a lot of works from his archive, and then we decided to put it together with some works that were related to those from people that lived in Germany or in Chile. For that year also, we invited and we collaborated for the exhibition also with Annette Gilbert. She's a wonderful scholar about artist book. It was very important for us to work with her because she helped us very much to take some decisions. Well, what I didn't say at the beginning, I mean, the three organizers of this group are literature teachers. We come from that background, so we're not curator, we're not visual artists, and of course that's a difficulty, but it's also easier in a way because we don't have any compromises with museums or galleries, or I mean, we don't know a lot of the people that we whose work we are dealing with. So and also we don't have like a responsibility to meet. For example, in Chile, like this kind of work would be focused on like the tradition or the history of the artist book in Chile. And that's great, of course. If someone wants to do it, let's go. But it's not what we were trying to do. We were more interested in showing some crosses, putting together very different kinds of books, and I will tell you more about it. So these are very non-canonical exhibitions. These are very simple exhibitions with few works, few activities, very well concentrated. But like I said, we don't want to write the history of artist book in Chile or Latin America. We just want to put together works from different countries and different contexts and see what happens. So as I said, we had this amazing talk by Annette Gilbert, and we organized some dialogues with people. You will recognize Richard Parker, for example, that has been participating in Language is a Virus. He talked about his work in Creator Press. But this was the first festival, very, very small. It was an exhibition of just 5 days. It was very fast. And also Annette brought a lot of works that we wanted to include in the exhibition. Some of them very special, like one of Mihaly Spiegler. He has a very interesting work. And this was a version of Mallarmé's Coupe de Dés, but instead of the words or like the black rectangles of Marcel Brothers versions, this had holes in the space of the word, so it was like a little sculpture to show. And in fact, this is Mihaly Spiegler book. As you see, it's the shape of Coupe de Dés, but it was made with laser. She's a Chilean artist, Mónica Bengoa, and this book is like a variation of Exercice du Style of Raymond Queneau. This is from Natalie Check. It's from Martín La Rocha, a Chilean artist that lives in Holland, etc. So tomorrow, when you access, you can have a look of all these works. And, and they are mostly like a mix of books by Guillermo Deisler, and also, for example, this is a book by Martín Gavins, Cuaderno de Composición. There's also, well, this is a book by Kristen Miller, a beautiful book. I don't remember very much. This is like 4 years ago. This is a book by Carlos Soto. I mean, I'm showing you the usual suspects. So this was the first edition, and as I said, like the criteria we took was very pragmatic. It was just putting together people from Germany and from Chile. So we could apply later again for funding from Germany again. That was like kind of the concept. But in fact, we kept working with the Goethe Institute for next year. This is the second version. This was a very a bigger festival, and this time we concentrated on a more specific criteria. The name was Destruir para escribir, Destruir para leer, to destroy to write, to destroy to read. And we wanted to talk about the destruction, the disappearance of the books. And this year we made it in the gallery Casa Uno, and also in another gallery. And we invited Ciarrine, she was with us some weeks ago, an English artist, Jay Price, and also a curator from Portugal, Paulo Pires do Vale. He was also very important for us in teaching how to prepare better an exhibition, and he works in a very free way. He talks about creating an exhibition like writing an essay, and he has this concept like you should consider the possibility to put things together more like when you write an essay in a very free way. So it was very important for us also to consider that. And here are some works I want to show to you. For example, these are object books by Guillermo Deisler. They're all made of wood, and they are torn, they are cut in very different ways. This I like this very much because this was an example of what we wanted to do with the, I don't see this, well, yeah. What we wanted to do, like expand the concept of artist book. In this selection, we had, for example, a book called Why Did You Shoot Me, which is a book that was shoot, but other books like these ones, these are two books, a book, Hashish by Walter Benjamin, and a dictionary. These books were part of a friend's library, and his house was burned. And in fact, his house was next my father's house in Valparaiso. I mean, the fire could have gone to my house. And I visited him some days after the fire. It was horrible. Almost all of his books were burnt. And in a moment said, I thought, well, I hope this doesn't offend you, but would you like to lend me some books and we can show them at the exhibition, like destroyed books, and voluntary destroyed books, of course. And he was very happy to, so we included them. And also we included this book. It's a little difficult to see, but there was an inundation in a part of Santiago a couple of years ago, and a bookstore was flooded with water, and lots of books were damaged. So they organized an exhibition. They lent some of the books to artists to do whatever they like, but also they gave us this book so we could include it in the exhibition. So this is an example of what we started to do with the not working only in the idea of artist book like a luxury book, like a coffee table book, which is like the usual way to think about them. So we started to include also like more conventional books that could deal with the ideas we were working. For example, this is a very nice edition of Bartleby, a Brazilian edition, but is sewed in both sides. So if you want to read it, you have to destroy it, one of the sides, to access the pages. And this is a fanzine that has the same structure. So we started like including those kind of things. Or for example, these scores that were cut, but also have some sketches by Ana Maria Bride, which also participates here. And we started like to open the selection more. Some pop-up books, of course. This, for example, is a book by, it seems not open. This is a book by Olaya Balcells. She was in charge of the publication of the books by Foro de Escritores, etc. The third year, last year, we also have a very big festival, and this year's edition was focused on like interactive books. It was called Proposiciones a Realizar, like proposals to make. And it was inspired in Edgardo Antonio Vigo, an Argentinian visual poet and artist that was very close to Guillermo Deisler. And he organized in the 70s, or the end of the 60s, I think, a huge exhibition about experimental poetry in Buenos Aires. A lot of people participated from Latin America, but also he was very well connected with guys from Fluxus and Concrete Poetry, etc. And you can tell it's like, it's very related to Fluxus instructions or action poems, as they also consider, etc. So we wanted to think about the possibility of books that were open to do other things with them or outside them, like books with instructions, etc. We invited also an Argentinian writer, Sergio Cheifek, and these are some of the books we included. And as you can see, for example, this is a book by Oswald de Andrade, Primero Caderno do Alumno de Poesía. It's like a notebook as if he was in school, but there are also these books these are the typical books that you used to learn to read in the school. Like this book is everywhere. And there's also you see, this is to learn how to read. And we had also this, for example, is the judo book by Yves Klein. You know that Yves Klein was a judoka, so we saluda.
Hi.
Here is Marcela. She's also part of La Oficina de la Nada, and she had been working a lot these days for the exhibition. And there are some other books, I don't know, like this one. Well, for example, there's this Raymond Queneau, 100,000 milliards de poèmes, which is a very interactive book. And also, for example, here are the cards of Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt, the oblique strategies. These, for example, are these typical books, Choose Your Own Adventure. So that's the idea. We wanted to put together different kind of books that some of them are not like so artistic, if you can say, but I mean, for us, it's the same. Oblique strategies. Oh, and I want to show this especially. Well, this, for example, is an object made by Guillermo Deisler that you can move. This, for example, is a typical bestiary that you can change the parts of different animals. This is a very well-known book, like a pop-up book with the alphabet. And this, I wanted to show this especially because this is a concrete poetry book made by an uncle of mine. He's like the first and only concrete poet in Chile. He published this when he lived in San Francisco in 1971, I think. And it also had this, you could move it like this circle. And for this year, we also organized lots of performance, etc. And now I will show you a little of this exhibition. As I said, for this year, we couldn't put together all the physical books we wanted to do. In fact, and I can tell you next year's theme that we're preparing, if you want to think of something, you're very welcome. We wanted to do this year's exhibition about paratext, books about titles, index, punctuation, etc. And we have been recollecting lots of them. There are some of them really interesting, like compilation of indexes of colophons and all that. But of course, we couldn't. So I had this idea to walk more around the digital technologies, but Marcela and Megumi, they are usually the ones that are in charge of the exhibition, and I'm more in charge of organizing the activities, but they weren't so much interested in like your, how to, en castellano decimos, tus weas de computín, ¿cómo debería ser? Your nerd stuff. They say, no, you take care of that nerd stuff with internet and digital books and all that. So, well, this was the year that I could put all of these things. And we wanted to have like a very different approach to the ebook. It's funny also because you remember like 15 years ago, everyone was talking about the death of the book and all that very silly thing. And years have passed by and we're still using paper books, but we're also using ebooks. And of course, there's a very interesting movement like connecting print and digital books and different processes, etc. I have been related last years to a lot of like conceptual poets in the States, especially, and you might know that there are a lot of projects like publishers like Gauss PDF, Troll Thread, Hysterically Real, and also other people that are making editions like just a plain PDF and that's all, or things like that. And I was very interested in that. Of course, I also was thinking about sound poetry, but not specifically sound poetry, but more like the idea of audiobooks, but in an experimental way. Well, I had some of these ideas, but as always, I mean, every year, like there's someone that like opens when we talk when we're preparing this, like open the research in different directions. In this case, it was very important. I was also talking with Annette Gilbert again and Andreas Bullhoff. Maybe you know him. He has a beautiful project, the Think magazine, a project I really love. And he's preparing a print on, with Annette, he's preparing a print on demand collection, also about experimental or artistic uses of the print on demand system that I know that it's very common, especially in the States, but in Chile, almost no one uses it. So it was interesting also if we're doing this in Chile, like to show this kind of work. And there was also another person that was very important for this year's edition, because this year also, like, we made like a more open curatorship, and I talked with lots of people, like, to give me recommendations, and we can see what we can do. For example, Susana Husarova, she made me some recommendations. Nick Montfort, and other guys. They are all here in the how do you say, agradecimientos, the credits. Jessica also, etc. But another a name that started to sound a lot when I was preparing this was an actress and dancer from Chile called Maria Cibal, and I knew a little about her work. And she has been working for a lot of years in translations in sign language of songs, for example, or songs for children. And I have seen a couple of his projects, and I liked it very much. So we decided to invite her. And it was great because she accepted to participate very actively in the festival, but with one condition. Every activity we do, we should include sign language translation. She told us that she would participate only if we do that. So we have to do it. And we had never worked with sign language translation. Well, we just finished the translation yesterday. We worked with people that are professional in that field, and we included. But that opened us the discussion to think, like, at the beginning, it was like the idea of only digital books, like, and then it started to go to audio books, but also with sign language. So it expanded a lot the span of this year's edition. And there was also a very important element in this year's edition. Of course, it was the political situation in Chile. So we started to think also in different kinds of, not books, but writing outside the book, in walls, in performances, with light, etc., that we also included. So in a very, very broad way, we think that we are talking about not only books, but writing without paper, but in other kind of surfaces, or with different kind of elements. As I said, this is a very non-canonical work. We always try to mix, like, very well-known books, and some of them that or some very unknown authors or artists that we also want to include. In fact, some years, for example, we had a limited space in the vitrine, so we had to choose between 3 books. And for example, there were like very obvious choices that we could do, and we decided to take those out to put another thing in that place. And people would say, why don't you include that? Well, you know that you can include it, don't bother. So that's like kind of the idea we're working. And this year, of course, it was a very different kind of displaying it. So we made 3 lists, one of works, projects, and archives. That was those are the 3 lists that we made. And as you will see, well, this is like the presentation, the little text, and kind of reading an abstract right now. And there are just 3 lists. I had in mind, like, I love this kind of very simple design, like Ubu Web, or like I think also the journal of Andreas. I really like this no not too much distraction. And this is like, there are like 40, a selection of like 40 works. We try to mix people from Chile, from Latin America, Europe, and the States. Of course, there are some kind of works that, for example, there are very few in Latin America. For example, there are no almost print-on-demand projects, like more experimental ones. So we didn't have, but there are other kind of books we wanted to include. And just to show some very few examples, but we organize the list as it is like a sequence. For example, the first one we chose, it's a work by Federico Antonini. He has been an Italian guy. He has been working a lot on artist book. And I don't know if you know this thing, ASMR, like people like reading into your ears with textures. And he organized this project with different kinds of paper. And I wanted to start with this because there's like this fetish of the sound and the smell of the paper. So it was like funny to start in this way. It's like kind of erotic with the texture of the text is very absurd. So this is an example. And also, this is I don't know if you guys know him, guys in England, Simon Morris. He's a very good friend of mine. He's more from the visual arts field, but he works a lot with books, and he has this project, Information as Material, with Nick Thurston and Craig Dworkin. And he has this performance, The Royal Road to the Unconscious, with he made it with the book, with a book of Sigmund Freud's, and it's very simple. He cut the book into pieces and throw it very randomly. So this first work is like saying goodbye to the paper, I think, in the beginning of the exhibition. There's a beautiful work by Gerard Altayó, The Sound of a Print with no paper. I don't know. There are like, for example, these are like very well-known example of prints on demand. For example, Black Friday by Holly Melgar, or this big project by Kenneth Goldsmith, printing out the internet. This is also like a classic book in this kind of, in this field, between page and screen, a book that deals with the printed book, but also like 3D. Here there's a gap. I think I have to include something of York here. I still haven't chosen it, but we have to talk about this later. But as I say, like the exhibition will fall. I decided to include this. This is a writing bot. But I like very much. It's like the only writing bot made in Chile. Kumatron, it's called, and it's very ugly. the website, and it produces PDF books. But I mean,
los profesores nos volvieron locos. Se fue llorando. Mi infancia comer comía. Me siento millonario.
It's very funny. Well, and this is a book I loved by Joachim Schmidt, Sorry, a Book of Errors. And there's also like projects that deal more with sound. For example, this is a book, Con Dief, by Thomas Brechet. It includes a CD, and it's kind of like radio theater. We included also Martín Vaquero's last cassette, but for a very special reason, because Martín didn't write the poems, but he made the performance and transcribed the text from the performance to the text of the cassette. So it's like the other way. This is a book you might know by Susana Josaroa, Liminal and Lucent, which is a book that combines a printed book, but also with a performance and also with sound, etc. From Martin Gavins, I chose Sonetos, which is a project that mixes sonnets, but also music and dancing. So we are trying like to go in and out of the book and mixing it with the body, etc. This is the section of projects. This is a very special one. It's Delight Lab. It's the group that has been projecting text and making wonderful interventions in Chile. In this case, for example, we had to put just the Instagram account. And they put they make these interventions. This is like in the center of Santiago, and they have been really important this year. There are also some, I like this, like more chaotic projects like this, Iberpoesia. It's a mixtape of internet poetry full of, I don't know, GIFs and videos and memes, things like that. Some of these projects in like Troll Thread, Hysterically Real, etc. Also, New Site and Taper, there were recommendations by Nick Morford by generative text works. This is a Think. As I told you, this is like this journal that was organized by Andreas Bulhoff. So he invited, let's see, for example, what Susana did. He invited, oh, I don't know what happened here. Well, this is another. So he gave like the same formats to each journal, and everyone who was invited had to do something with it. This is by Thorsten Kramer, for example. And some people put code, some other put like photos, plain text, etc. Different languages, whatever. There are also there are a couple of projects that are related with the COVID situation. This is an archive of social distance and Colección Biblioteca La Deriva in Mexico. And there also, this is the project of Maria Sibald, Trasunto, and NZ. These are two projects by her. This is the one in which she translates songs into movements and language of signs. And these are the videos for kids. Like these are songs by Mazapan, a very typical musical group that we all heard when we were childs. And but she made these versions in like theater and sign language. And for example, this is a project that was just made also like of sign language, but invented and made in Zoom talks. And also there are the archives. So we put some library of artistic print on demand, post-digital publishing archive, printed web, Centrum für Kunstpublikationen, which is amazing. This is like very well known, but we're thinking also in people that aren't part of like experimental writing community and don't know anything about this. And we also added at the end some experimental unarchives. For example, this is an archive of archives, or repositorio de repositorios, that collects other archives. And these are very related to the political situation in Chile, in Latin America, etc. So this is like a very quick view about it. And we're starting tomorrow. The website, as you can see, is www.laoficinadelanada.cl. I will send you the link, of course. And as I said, one of the reasons that I wanted to show this to you is that if you have some ideas like to expand the exhibition, please let me know. I mean, you can take like an idea of what we were thinking. It's very open, and we like to, just as in these conversations we have weekly, the idea is to mix people and experiences and backgrounds and contexts and items and all that. Is in all our exhibitions we always put the fewest information possible. Like we don't have to guide very much. I mean, sometimes we do guided visits, but like the idea is that people can walk and see what they like, and it's like not too serious. that is the idea. I didn't make any sound, but later you will have a lot of sound, so don't worry, that it will be.
That was wonderful. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing all of that.
Well, I hope that this will allow people from Europe or from the States to know some projects in Latin America and otherwise. I mean, the idea is always to mix different projects. That's the problem with the language, of course, but well, sometimes it's not too complicated to translate or whatever.
Yeah, it was really, really fascinating. And yeah, I was very interested in what you were saying about the thinking of the exhibition as an essay, you know, actually thinking about the critical space of the exhibition,
yeah.
And also what it means to come to that as somebody who's got a kind of a literary background and sort of moving into this kind of cross media shape. And yeah, I just thought that that it was a very interesting. It sounds quite like actually quite a challenging sort of position to be in.
Yeah. And also the fact that we are scholars, and it's funny because, for example, in the last project and the project that we are making now, we have a research project that is about the use of procedures in literature, art, and music, more like what we did last year. I mean, for us, this is the most important thing we do, and the only thing we do that a lot of people can be interested. I mean, when you publish a paper in an academic journal, it's very few people that reads it. But it's funny, but for us, it's obviously the most important thing we do. But when you have to feel like when you finish the project and you have to explain what you did, if you don't know very much where to put it. It's like extension activities, but it's like going to give a talk to a school, which is great, of course, but this is quite bigger. And we had lots of difficulties trying to explain. For example, Marcela, some months ago, she had like this meeting with the dean of the faculty, which is a great guy, a friend of us, but she wanted to explain like in which way this was making research, and that organizing an exhibition was probably more important than publishing a paper. And the guy said, well, this is beautiful, but you have to publish the paper. I mean, it's like there's no way to consider it like a product, like scientific product. And for us, it's like, obviously you research when you try to find things, but also when you are organizing the sequence. Bye, Scott. When you organize the sequence, for us is the most important moment. I mean, when you decide how to put it together, some things have to go out because of the space, but also because they don't fit in the relation or constellation you are trying to organize. So, I mean, it's a very intense moment when you put together the sequence.
Yeah. Is it kind of writerly more than critical? Is it more like a sort of, do you think of it as more of an extension as a sort of a poetry practice than a critical practice?
That's a very good question. Well, as I told you, usually I'm not the one in charge. I contribute with gathering some material for the exhibitions, but Marcela and Megumi are the ones that organize it. And when they, at the end, they call me and see, what do you think about it? We don't know to choose this or that. But this year I had this, I had to work in this, and they were in charge of organizing the archive of last year, so they had a lot of work on that. And for me, a lot of the work I have done in writing poetry is usually taking material from others, other places, and organizing them, so it's not so different. I think in like this. I always say that in my case, like, writing is I guess we talked about it some weeks ago. Writing is like an extension of playing Lego when I was a kid. Like taking the blocks and putting them in different places. Like that movement is very important.
Yeah. It's really got that energy about it. I mean, it feels like a continuation of your.
It's very personal. It's interesting to do something personal with other people. Work, but it is. But also, we were talking about your book before. Also, when you write a book, I mean, just the selection of the works that you want to analyze tells a lot about you. I mean, it's like a self-portrait, I think. Like in an indirect way. The other thing I forgot to say that this year we also made some dialogues. Well, the first thing that you should attend, of course, it will be the launch of the new record by Orquesta de Poetas with Federico Eisner. You have seen him in a lot of sessions, and so that will be tomorrow. And we also organize some dialogues with the folks that made some of these the projects of activism here in Chile. There's also a dialogue with Maria Sibald. I told you about her, and some other guys that have projects of radio theater in the radio during the lockdown, and also a book collection of audiobooks that have been made more thinking on blind people. Which more? And another conversation about digital books and photography. Yeah, so that's what we're including. I mean, it's boring to do something in a website, of course, but we are trying to at least do something.
It sounds like you've got a really good public there from previously, because when you were saying, oh, people come along and say, why didn't you include this?
Yeah.
That implies that actually you have a very responsive public who are very knowledgeable and involved.
But we're saying, come and tell us. We're not saying that we are taking. But we will hear. No, I mean, well, it's a joke. Every time when you do an exhibition, especially an exhibition that is like an anthology, everyone has its opinion, and why didn't you put this? And I mean, and when that happened before, we couldn't do anything because the exhibition was completed. But in this case, if we think there's something we want to include, we'll do. Yeah. And for example, I was checking yesterday. That's why I wait for today. I was checking yesterday York's his last book. I was searching if it was complete on the internet or parts of it, but well, but you have some other projects that maybe we can include, etc. And you know, some another thing that maybe some of you can have a take on this. Just like 2 weeks ago, it appeared the first anthology of electronic literature in Latin America, which is related to the Electronic Literature Organization. And also the guys from Electronic Literature Organization have these 3 anthologies. They're works by George, I think, and they're preparing the 4th one. And it's funny because at the beginning it was like obvious to be very related to that, but I don't know, George, you have been more involved maybe in this. I feel so far from lots of the criteria they use. For example, they almost have nothing, I mean, very little of sound poetry. I mean, poetry that is made with computers and with software and all that. Some of it is generative, but I mean, it's fascinating. There are generative texts, bots, and visual poetry and whatever. But it's very funny that I mean, it's a very broad collection, of course. And I chose some material from those collection, or I discovered some artists that I wanted to take a further look. But I don't know. Like the discussions they are having, they don't mean very much to me. I don't know how do you see this? I have talked about this with Gerard sometimes, and also with Rui Torres in Portugal. He helped us also with the selection, but I think that there are probably different currents and all that. But
yeah, I see it like the same way, because I was at a couple of these conferences, not really ELO, but I was at ePoetry and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And in the beginning it was important for me, but I feel more and more alienated from the whole thing, because it's so related to the US American way of talking about literature and academia, and I'm not that much interested anymore. So I think electronic literature is one way to view these whole things, but maybe it's not the only one and not the best one, because I think some works that I would consider electronic literature, most people, or the people that make them, would consider themselves as net artists or whatever. And I think, I don't know. I sent them some works for the electronic literature collection, but yeah, I think it's
it's too literary, I think.
Yeah, too narrow, and also I talked with a couple of people who are involved there, and some of them, not all of them, absolutely not. There are some really broad views, but some of them have a very narrow view of what literature actually is. And yeah, some were even talking to me that, I don't know, if it doesn't make sense, then it's not literature, or if you can't understand it, then it's not literature. And this is kind of the whole, I don't know. Well, then I don't feel at home there. So
for example, they had this idea that electronic literature must be only in the web, I mean, or in a computer or software. And there are a lot of your book, for example, is a printed book, but it couldn't have been made without a software or a computer. I mean, of course, for me, it's electronic or digital literature, but or for example, the idea of performance, they don't include them.
Or things on CDs or sound installations or radio plays. There are a lot of things that are maybe not they're not websites, but they're maybe more interesting because they're not that confined to old technology almost. Because the web is old already, right?
Yeah. Well, this is another thing that's funny when you start clicking the links in all these electronic literature collections, half of them are fallen or broken, of course.
Yeah, now even that flash stopped working.
Yeah.
Now
Wow,
almost
that was
million
amazing, because I was searching
gigabytes.
on, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, January 3rd, I took a look at these electronic literature collections, and it was so sad. It was like going to a cemetery. It was full of dead books. It was, I was so sad. I mean, and some of them I remembered, and I remember that they were beautiful, and they were dead. There are some guys that have made new versions and all that, but so sad.
Yeah,
Mm.
but it's so boring to make new versions of old works just
Yeah.
because they don't work anymore. It's kind of the thing you don't want to do because it's so.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, because it brings you back to the book. When I was in library school, this was about 30 years ago. I was taken on a tour of the British Library, and the woman there said, and this goes back to one of the things you showed, Felipe, which was the books that were affected by a flood.
Wow.
and the British Library has a huge freezer. And the reason it has a huge freezer is because if they're ever flooded, the best way to preserve the books is to throw them in the freezer. And they actually have standing contracts with freezer trucking companies as well. Yeah. And I was told by a very old, great bibliographer that the best way to preserve a book is to throw it in a freezer.
Wow.
And, but basically the way that books will often last longer than electronic things.
That's amazing.
Where the format changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, I really loved what you presented. I love the kind of openness of it, and to different things, and also I like the way it's evolved over time.
Yeah.
And the way it's in the current year or something got into this sense of like language being projected or various ways it's used politically for the kind of momental need of text or book or something. And the last thing I really wanted to say was, please, while this is going on, if you notice anything interesting, send links of things that we might want to see.
Yeah.
And also, if you did not know, there's a library in London called the National Art Library that collects extensively on art books, artist books. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a colleague of a friend, co-poet of ours, I mean, Zoe will know her, Elizabeth James, who works there. And maybe we can get her to present some artist books someday.
That would be great. Yeah. Yeah. Please send me the link, because we included some, because we are always dealing with the artist book, we included some archives about artist book, not digital artist book in general. So that would be great to include it. And I forgot to say something very important. This year we changed the title because it was always Artist Book Festival, and now it's Books Festival. We took out the artist, and it was a very important decision. And it had to do a lot with what we were talking with Annette, like in the first edition, because the discussion was because the guys from the Goethe Institute wanted us, they asked us if we wanted to show a documentary about artist books, but I don't know, artist book made by Karl Lagerfeld or like very posh or famous guys. And we were, I haven't seen it, so I was considering it, and Annette said, no way, artist book is something political, it's not a luxury item. She was very, very straightforward. And yeah, and that made us like start to thinking in other ways. And well, I'm a little, sorry, you know them? I can recommend.
I just wanted to drop a recommendation on artist books, especially.
Perfect. I'll take a look. Thank you very much.
Because I like them a lot, and I have some at home, and I think they're really beautiful and really nice.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Well, for this session, because Martin is not here today, he's always flying, but this time literally. I don't know if you want to do some improvisation, but I wanted to maybe to make a little change, and this time don't do an improvisation, but to show you the work we produced for the end of the festival. This is really exclusive. No one has seen it yet, and it's very long. It's almost 30 minutes. So maybe we can end with this because it's really long. But I wanted to tell you a little about this project. This was well, I forgot to say the fourth member of La Oficina de la Nada now is Ricardo Luna. He's an electronic musician. I've been playing with him for like 15 years. And we now, apart from our project, we have a trio called the Kid Harrings. And I have shown you a couple of things before. But in this occasion, we worked with Maria Siebald, the actress that makes sign language, and we prepared an improvisation. And we chose, this is a text of a book I'm preparing. It's a text that is very repetitive. It's very like concrete poetry, kind of La Ciudad de Gonzalo Millán for the, for the Chilean. And it's a book that I wrote like 4 years ago. That's it was written as if it was a group of people in the, how do you say limbo? Luna, ¿sabes cómo se traduce limbo, no?
Limbo.
Like this place between limbo. Do you say
Limbo.
that? Yeah, limbo, like the place between heaven and, I mean, when you're not able to get to the heaven, and it's always as a metaphor. So it was like a group of people that were living in a limbo and not doing nothing. I say this because the text talks about people that are like all together in a same place, and it sounds very like if it was written this year, but not. It was not written this year. So Maria chose some of the verses she liked most. Then we used something I always love to do, is to use this speech-to-text voices, and it was read by different Spanish voices in my computer. And then we prepared, the three of us with Ableton Live, we prepared different sequencers to play them randomly. So Maria didn't know which text would appear, and she had to react in the same moment to translate them. So for her, it was very demanding, but also, as you will see in some part, the text start to dilute and mix and become illegible. So she starts to translate the sounds, and that's the part I really like most. So the title is Aquí estamos. In Spanish is We Are Here. That's the title of the book and the performance. We'll show this performance on Sunday at the closing of the festival, Sunday evening. But I thought it was great to show them to you for this occasion. So, well, I say goodbye, and I'm really happy to having been able to share this project with you, because it's the kind of project I can never show to friends abroad. I mean, you have to be in the exhibition, but now it will become available, at least in this way. So here it is. So before I will silence. Sorry, there was a mistake. It has to include sound, so I will put it back. I guess I put down my microphone, but I cut all the sound. Sorry. And
But Felipe, may I ask what sign language is it?
yeah, it's not like letter by letter. It's like for
Yeah, I know, but there are different kinds of sign language. So what is the basic?
I don't know. Maria told me, but in this moment I forgot.
Okay.
But I can ask her to have more details.
No, it would just be interesting to me because I learned Austrian Sign Language, and
okay.
also in Austria there's a new one and an old one, and then you have dialect. So.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny because this morning I was thinking just the same, and I said I will ask Maria if there's like this. Is there like a how do I say, like a cultural difference in sign language, or there are like objective concepts? For example, if you say
no, there is definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that, but it's great to know. Well, here's again. Well, and as Edwin says, we wanted to look like Kraftwerk. That was the idea, of course.
Estuviéramos perdidos. ¿Cómo somos? Somos como somos. Somos como somos. Nosotros no hay motivos por los que pelear. ¿En qué se puede creer? Podríamos convertirnos en algo distinto.
¿Hacia dónde avanzar? Nos acercamos al centro. Nos miramos. Imaginamos un baile muy tímido. Nos balanceamos. ¿Cómo estamos? ¿Cómo estamos?
Dejamos que los pensamientos fluyan, dejamos que los pensamientos pasen, no sufrimos, no disfrutamos, no sentimos cómo se siente. Hay cosas que no queremos escuchar, hay cosas que no queremos. Preguntamos, ¿alguien sabe nuestro secreto? Nadie sabe por qué estamos aquí y no en otra parte. Nuestro lenguaje es muy fácil. ¿Qué es fácil?
Tenemos que decir, solo queremos estar aquí, solo podemos estar aquí. ¿Cuál es el límite? Damos vueltas. Si reflexionamos, alzamos la cabeza. ¿Cuál es la verdad? La verdad es que no podemos decir nada más. Todo lo acordamos, todo lo recordamos, todo lo guardamos.
Demasiado pequeño. Esto nunca se ha visto. Esto no es una repetición. Nadie podría repetirlo. ¿Quién podría repetirlo? Repitamos todos juntos. No podemos hacerlo. No podemos.
Es necesario.
Repetirlo. ¿Quién podría repetirlo? Repitamos todos juntos.
Nos en algo distinto. Podríamos cambiar. ¿Quién decide si algo cambia? Respiramos profundo, pero
¿Podría repetirlo? ¿Quién podría repetirlo?
tenemos que hacer. Este lugar es amplio, este lugar es espacioso,
¿Qué necesitamos? Adentro.
Estado aquí. Somos libres de hacer lo que queramos, somos libres de no hacer nada, somos libres de pensar lo que queramos, somos libres de decir.
Respiramos lento, parece que no es necesario.
Mira al otro lado, aquí está. Cuando caminamos, nuestros pasos son absorbidos. Caminamos como si estuviéramos perdidos. ¿Cómo somos? Somos como somos.
Todo lo recordamos, todo lo guardamos. No sabemos hacia dónde avanzar.
No hay palabras, no podemos entender nada. Como no hay palabras, no podemos. Nadie podría repetirlo. ¿Quién podría repetirlo? Repitamos todos juntos.
Tratamos de pensar, pero no ocurre nada. Tratamos de dejar de pensar, pero no ocurre nada. Sería mejor dejarlo. Está vacío,
Se puede creer, podríamos convertirnos en algo distinto. Podríamos cambiar. Podríamos cambiar.
No disfrutamos, no sentimos cómo se siente. Hay cosas que no queremos escuchar, hay cosas que no queremos ver.
Si hay alguna duda, preguntamos. ¿Alguien sabe nuestro secreto? Nadie sabe.
Hagamos algo, se caería inmediatamente. Si hay alguna duda, preguntamos. ¿Alguien sabe nuestro secreto? Que no es necesario respirar. Es necesario respirar, es necesario.
Esto nunca se ha visto. Esto no es una repetición.
Un paso atrás, no damos un paso al lado y al otro lado. Aquí está todo, aquí está todo.
Las palabras. Como no hay palabras, no podemos.
Miramos todo. Todo es igual. Todo es igual. Todo es igual.
Nervioso. No hay a dónde irse. Nadie quiere ir.
Somos. Aquí todo es funcional. No se puede Todo es absoluto. Cuando caminamos nuestro pago por nuestros deseos. Todo es
Nadie podría repetirlo. ¿Quién podría repetirlo?
Pues hablamos al mismo tiempo sin explicar.
Lo que queramos, somos libres de hacer nada, somos libres de pensar. Siempre hemos estado allí. Sería mejor mirar. Miramos todo. Damos un paso al frente, no damos un paso atrás, no damos un paso atrás.
Alguien sabe nuestro secreto.
Podemos remediar nada, solo podemos olvidar.
Donde algo termina, algo empieza. No hay chance.
explicarlo. La temperatura es moderada. Todo suena. Libres de decir lo que queramos.
Cambiar. Quien decide si algo te hago es pero no de frena.
Paso al lado y al otro lado. Aquí está. Repitamos todos juntos.
Como no hay palabras, no podemos. Todo es absoluto. Cuando caminamos
Nos acercamos al centro. Nos miramos. Imaginamos. El que se puede creer podríamos convertirnos en algo distinto.
Este lugar es demasiado pequeño. Esto nunca se ha visto. De pensar lo que quedamos somos libres de decir lo que queramos.
Esto nunca se ha visto. Esto no es una repetición. Nadie podría repetirlo.
Y al otro lado, aquí está todo lo que necesitamos.
No sabemos a dónde avanzar. Nos acercamos al centro. ¿Cómo hay palabras? No podemos explicarlo. La temperatura es moderada. Todo suena mal. Todo está absoluto. Paso atrás, no damos.
Algo termina, algo empieza, algo termina. Nadie podría repetirlo. ¿Quién podría repetirlo?
Sí, no hay hacer.
Somos libres de pensar lo que queramos como
Podemos estar aquí. Solo podemos estar aquí. ¿Cuál es?
Todos pensamos al mismo tiempo.
Sería mejor dejar de pensar. 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 Es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. No es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. No es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Tratamos de pensar, pero no ocurre nada.
Tratamos de pensar, pero no ocurre nada. Tratamos de pensar, pero no ocurre nada.
que hacer. Este lugar es amplio, este lugar es espacioso, este lugar es demasiado. ¿Qué tenemos que hacer? Este lugar es amplio, este lugar es espacioso, este lugar es demasiado grande. ¿Qué tenemos que hacer? Seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Seguimos confiados en Dios. Sería mejor, sería mejor. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igualmente, seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir. Es necesario seguir, es imposible seguir igual, hay que seguir hacia donde hay que seguir.
Fuera no tenemos límites. Uno puede estar más nervioso, menos nervioso. Aquí nadie está nervioso. No hay a dónde ir.
Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, great.
Great, thank you.
Well, now I have to leave to the airport, so sorry for
Yeah, have a good trip home.
yeah, thank you. It's very short. It's just 1 hour, but well. And it was great seeing you guys. And I will send you the links during this day so you can see everything we prepare. I'm very grateful of you for your comments and also as I said, if you have recommendations or whatever, please send it. See you next
Estuvo
week.
fantástico.
Gracias, Guins. Ahí nos estaremos viendo. I don't know whose turn is next week, but we have some guys in the list, so I will tell you in the weekend. See you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ok, chao. Buen viaje.
Gracias.